Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew Rabbitt. I'm the CEO of Incuto, and I'd like to welcome you to our very first podcast. And hi, and I couldn't be more excited that the very first person we get to have this conversation with is my good friend Ian Brewer from Bradford Credit Union. Ian is the Financial Inclusion and Business Development Officer for Bradford, and I'm really excited that he's agreed to be the first person to come on join us on this series of conversations. So welcome, Ian, and thank you very much for agreeing to this.
Well, thank you there, and it could be a poison chalice. You never know.
Absolutely, we'll make it up as we go along.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Ian, we've known each other for 5 years, right? That seems like only yesterday. We've probably been talking for 40% of that. I guess we first met each other on a sunny day in your offices in Bradford, if you remember, all the way back there.
Yes, I did.
What a great time that was. Talking about one of our common projects that we were both extremely excited and engaged in, and still are, Lifesavers.
Absolutely.
If you remember all that time back, and we've obviously kept a very common interest in between around what you do. So maybe give us a quick tour of what you do and who you are, and how that's looked.
So Ian Brewer, I'm the Financial Inclusion Officer for the Bradford District Credit Union. Bradford District Credit Union started 28 years ago, 1993, by the council. People couldn't get loans in the council, so they decided to start their own credit union during a recession. Fantastic idea. They ticked along for many years until 2015. Two things happened. One is that we went online. We got online banking, and we were one of the first adopters of that, and that increased membership. And the second thing was that the council decided to put money in to fund a financial inclusion officer to reach their financial inclusion targets. Back then, it was all payday lenders. Wonga was huge. People were really struggling with that sort of thing. So they felt that they needed to have a financial inclusion officer, but not situated in the council. So they decided to fund that in the credit union, which they started. So it made sense. I joined probably 6 months after that. And so the difference was, I remember having a meeting with the board meeting when I had the interview. And I said, I don't know a lot about credit unions, but what I know about is community development. And I said, if you give me the job here, what I will do is I will take financial inclusion and join it with community development, with all the contacts I know, because I've run community centres here in Bradford before, so I knew the sector, and I'll be able to do that. So that we'll take our growth from there. Well, Andrew, I'm here to say that we grew from 3,000 5 years ago to we've just passed 8,000 members. So
awesome.
We'll talk more about that later, but super excited about what happened.
Absolutely, as you should be. And I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because it's not a role that seems to exist in many credit unions.
No, it isn't.
So it's a bit of it's a kind of bold move to not only create a new role, but to kind of let you loose in the world on something that's seen as kind of unknown, but sounds like it's been massively successful. What's the secret to the kind of relationship? What do you guys obviously work really well together, and I've met your CEO as well, another Andrew, and he's always really positive about the way it's worked. I mean, is that relationship really important?
Absolutely. Andrew comes from a banking background himself, Andrew Bowker, many years in banking industry. So fiscally, he looks after Bradford District Credit Union fantastically well, steers that ship. We have a fantastic board, a mixture of banking people, community people, and lots in between. That also a very tight board. So the CEO and the board run really, really well. And I slowly started to build small grassroots projects using illegal money lending team money, because talking about loan sharks is great because I don't have to talk about us being a lender. I talk about credit union as being a saver, savings organization. I talk about us helping you do something you can't do. You can't save. You can get loans from everywhere, but you can't save. Now, obviously, our business model, we know, needs those loans, but that's not what the community needs to hear to begin with. So I talk a lot about loan sharks because we are the antithesis of that. We are the opposite of that. And that was a great key. So I pulled these organizations together and yeah, we made some magic happen.
And it really has been magic, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the kind of growth that you've seen in the organization. I mean, you know me well enough to know that I always look at that as being a human impact. It's all about saying, actually, there's a bunch of people who really need you. And what you're doing is you're making sure that they know that you're there. They understand what you do, and they know that you're the right and a safe place to go. And the number of things that you get involved in, the number of stakeholders you manage to kind of combine into that message is staggering, really, because it sometimes feels like it's shouting into a void, I guess, when you hit up against certain barriers. But it's nothing short of a miracle that you can get all the people. And, you know, maybe give us a bit of an insight into some of the events that you run, because, you know, we've been involved in some of those events with you. And you know, from our perspective and from my perspective, you know, we're just an interloper. We're an outsider accidentally sneaking in the door. But I watch, you know, I observe those events with excitement and just think, actually, the number of people who turn up to them, the amount of engagement you get with these kind of things. So I'm thinking things like the Safer Internet Day, the Buy Now campaign, all these kind of things, right? Where they're not directly specifically about the credit union, and yet they drive the message about it. I mean, was that on purpose?
Well, yes, because when I started and I started mixed with the community, nobody knew what credit union was. So I was starting from scratch. We'd had people engaging the community before, but not on a major scale. We couldn't resource it, really. So when I was able to start getting into that, and I realized people just don't know what a credit union is. And then I started to explain it the best I knew how to explain it. And people were just like, wow, that sounds clunky. That's a bank, but you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to do this. It's all weird. So I thought I need a different way to talk about this. And so by establishing what we now call the Anti-Poverty Events Group, so it's not, I didn't want financial inclusion in their name because anti-poverty is wider than financial inclusion. It's talking about well-being, it's talking about health, it's talking about getting to the grassroots of why people are in poverty in the first place. Money plays a huge role in that, but I needed a wider stakeholders. So we've got groups there to do with community development organization that looks after a lot of those. We've got Carers Resource, looks after carers. People Can, that's a volunteering organization. But the groups I've got, I all did small projects with to begin with and worked out who my grafters were and who had the same values. And I distilled that down and said, right, okay, did something with you. I ended up doing the whole thing. You didn't do much to do with that. I'll leave you out. But we partnered and you took the lion's share. You really got what a credit union is. I'll have you. So I just got these groups together and added a few more along the way. And we now have 8 organizations and the council is one of our partners. And that's because I met a lady in the council that gave me that help to get us started.
And look, I guess it takes a certain kind of skill set to be able to go and engage with so many different stakeholders, some of whom get it, some of whom don't, and sort of continue to fight that battle. And you know, personality wise, you've got that in spades, that you can go and enthuse people and inspire them to want to be part of something. Do you think that's something? Do you think that's something that's kind of replicable? Do you think other credit unions can do that?
It is replicable. I mean, my own journey and my passion for tackling inequality came out of the fact that I immigrated to South Africa when I was 7. Came back at 17, but during that time, the anti-apartheid movement, I got quite involved in that. Also, I also wanted to be back in the UK. I didn't really want to be in South Africa, so I decided to save my way out of that. And at the age of 13, I made a decision to start doing gardening jobs and washing cars until I had enough money to get on a plane and come home. And that was when I was 17. I reached that magic figure. And I said goodbye to South Africa, and I came back to live with my grandparents. So savings is really, really important to me, and getting people into that, like Lifesavers. When you came along with Lifesavers and we had that first conversation, I thought, that's me at 13. I want to do that. I so want to do this. When you started talking about Lifesavers, you had me hooked, and I thought, this is people I can do business with. A lot about what I've done with the credit union is taking us outside of the credit union and explaining and demonstrating who we are through the partnerships that we build. So Lifesavers demonstrated what the credit union is. I didn't have to explain a lot from there. We're a savings organization. And that's where I built my teams and my partners that have been specifically catering and chosen for this, that get my ideals and get the ideal of credit union, what we're trying to achieve. They bring members to us because we are the anchor for them. If I want to do anti-poverty and I want to help people out of money, what anchor do I use? I use the credit union, and that's why we've grown.
Got it. Do you know, it's really interesting because I've never heard you talk about your motivation for this and where this came from. And that kind of emotional connection to it. No,
yeah,
I've never
very
heard you
emotional,
talk about that. That is,
very emotionally connected to Lifesavers.
And that's a really, really important factor in this, isn't it? I've realized along the way that if you can connect to the problem, if you can kind of accept and understand it and believe that there's a way to deal with it, but more importantly, it's not just a mechanical thing. It's not a project. It's actually something you have to deeply understand. That the people who along the way have been most successful in helping us as an organization have actually turned out to have a story that connects them. I mean, I came into this, having worked for too many years as a management consultant and all sorts of other random stuff that I fully recovered from now.
To tears.
yeah, that's right, exactly. But deep in the past, worked for an organization where we were helping people and came across a family who needed help, and their child was in hospital and he'd eaten paper, and on the paper he'd drawn a picture of a pizza because his parents couldn't afford to buy food. And he'd eaten the paper because it was a substitute, because he didn't want to put pressure on his parents. This kid's 8 years old, and I have an 8-year-old. I have 3 kids, right? So I'm kind of staring at them and thinking, apart from the fact that they eat us out of house and home, I'm kind of staring at them and thinking, it's just absolutely crazy that you could have that situation. Yeah. And so I guess I've always kind of had that thing in the back of my head that it's just an unacceptable thing. So when you meet people who have that kind of emotional connection to a problem, like you just get it, I guess it makes it a lot easier to spark that. Maybe that's why, our first half an hour meeting took 4.5 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. It was just like we kept talking and talking and talking.
Yeah. It's a good warning for anyone else not to not to get emotionally connected to anything in front of them. That's it.
Yeah. When I moved to Bradford, I was unemployed to begin with before I got my first community centre role. And I went down to Bradford College and they were offering free courses if you're unemployed. So I did a marketing and media management course. And one of the things that came up was there is you just need to get your brand out in everything that you do, especially if it's difficult to communicate. So that's what stuck with me. And when I started doing the credit union, I have to just get the banners out because I want people to come up to me and say, what's a credit union? Because that way I get a chance to explain it. But what I was going to say about the pandemic is that having done a lot of this legwork and events in real world that have been fantastically and grown massively over time, but there's still been a lot of legwork and a lot of travel, was that I can now do a webinar. And when COVID hit, the council came to me and said, there's a lot of people that can be really financially disadvantaged by this. You have the tools. You've got this Money SOS course. Can you train up some of our community practitioners? So I got together with Michelle Taylor from PeopleCan, who knows a lot about domestic violence. And I thought, right, we'll put on COVID Money SOS. We're piloting.
Nice.
We piloted it for 2 weeks and it was packed out, but I kept it small, no more than 6 people, because that way you can have a dialogue at the end. So, and I can see people for it. So it was intimate, but so it's restricted to 6 people. And we did a load of these. We've seen 200 community practitioners with 100% feedback from the evaluations I got back over lockdown, and we finished about 2-3 weeks ago, and now I do that with our payroll partners in a bespoke way. But COVID's given me the opportunity to be socially acceptable to come online and do these. And of course, the international aspect, I don't need a flight anymore. I went to LA last year with Abkul to the conference over there. Wonderful experience, but wow, it costs a lot. Everything, carbon emissions and all the rest of it. But now I've been able to have talks with my LinkedIn colleagues, lots of them, and we just jump on and we just communicate and talk. And that's why when we decided to do Buy Now, our alternative Black Friday, it's now in its 5th year, I said to the crew, right, we need something to anchor into the community. So let's do Loan Sharks and Monsters. Let's get 10,000 activity packs into the hands of the vulnerable people that need to know about loan sharks, scams, online gambling, and domestic violence with lots of funds activities. So we got the money together to do that. We pushed them out. We had an army of volunteers that went and distributed them for us. So that was the activity. That was a community activity. Buy Now, which was a community activity before, then became a webinar. And I said, right, well, I've got Scott he looks after 220 credit unions in the US. We'll definitely have him on. We'll have Hank from Detroit, met him, shared a platform with the both of them. He's absolutely great story. Let's get him sorted out. And then who else do I need? Well, I need Karen Bennett from Abkul, because she knows Hank. So get them working together. I know somebody who knows Fair for All. Let's get Sasha in to talk with Scott, and we'll talk about lending. And then over the summer, we did a COVID loan thing with the council, a pilot experimental, but that went on BBC Radio 4. And the lady there, Julia Paul, the presenter, really got what a credit union was. And she said to me at the end, she said, if you want me to do something for one of your events, I said, well, as it happens.
Well, just 1 second. Yeah, absolutely.
So she was my anchor. She was the person that I started to go everybody else to and say, I've already got BBC Radio 4 presented. Do you want to hop on? Yes, please. So that all my events start with an anchor. I need an anchor to begin with, and then attract other people to it, work out who my speakers are, and then get them working together. I don't want to design their content. I tell them what to do. I get people I trust, and I get them working together. And, 200 people booked on it. It was fabulous.
Yeah. It's really interesting the way you've approached it, that you've taken it from the point of view of it's not just this one thing about money. No. That it's this much wider systemic topic, and one of the words always that always sticks in my head that came from an anti-poverty kind of report that came out a few years ago was isolation.
Yeah.
And it's such a strange thing that, because one of the things we've been really focused on is that as people move to go towards a more digital experience,
Yes.
that you don't close the branch, you don't take the people away, you just let them have more time with the people who needed it. You put the experience of a digital experience in the people's hands who didn't want to come into a branch or couldn't get to a branch, but you make sure that those people are still there and there's still that human contact. And it's a really important message, I think, that as all these things change and evolve, especially around COVID, that's been such a massive driver of even more isolation and people separating.
So true.
The one thing that that I think is a reflection of ours on the sector, I don't know if you recognize this, but when our local high street banks, they all open 10 till 2, right? I didn't even notice, but they all open 10 till 2, and only during the week now, where they were always open sort of 9 to 5, Monday to Saturday, that kind of thing. And yet it seems that people's expectation of credit unions, who, let's face it, in some cases are actually run by volunteers who may be vulnerable, all that kind of stuff. The infrastructure is not really there to deal with all that. The expectation of people was, you're going to still be there. You're going to still help. You're going to still be open when I need you. I'm still going to have to be able to go and get cash, all that kind of stuff. I mean, is that a kind of, do you see that from Bradford's perspective?
Definitely. Now, our branch has been forced to close, and we are still closed now because we are based in City Hall, and the council buildings had to close. So we have been forced to move digital. Unfortunately, we moved to a debit card soon before, and we moved to family loans just before COVID hit. We had other products, but these are the newer products that we had, and they boomed during the COVID times. And people have really adapted well to us online or over the telephone or email. I was really surprised. You know, our engagement of internet banking has skyrocketed with people that just said, I can't do that, can't do that. And now they're using us that way, and they're happy to use us that way. We've not had people that are digitally financially excluded. I work with, 5 years ago, we had no financially excluded people. We've now got over 2,500 of them. Right. And a lot of that work has come through building relationships with support workers. So each person that comes in that needs support, I note down on our system their support worker. So if there's a problem, I don't call the customer who's got his own issues. I call the support worker. Support worker sorts it out for me. So that's how our structure now runs. We run through. So we've given them all debit cards. And if they're struggling with debit cards, the support worker holds on to the debit card. So they don't keep losing it, and then take them out to the cash machine to get their money and bring it back, and it stays in. So now I've got a network of organizations that hold on to the debit cards for the people, and in a trusted and accepted way. And that prevents mate crime of people coming alongside them to take their money straight from the cash machine. That cuts down on that, cuts down on theft. And we've had so much positive support and feedback from our organisation support workers saying this system's working the best we've ever had. So it's building that infrastructure. You have to build it from the beginning. And probably one of the points is to recruit for my role probably does need to come from a community development background to be able to get those skills. Credit unions are there to bring out the best in people. Your role, absolutely, my role, we are there to not only give them a loan, help them get into savings habit, we're there to bring the best out in people. And you and I, we connect because that's what we love doing.
Absolutely. Do you know something? You're completely right. That's the best. This hashtag that goes around that another large building society accidentally stole of people helping people, right? Yeah. I think is so crucial, and it's why we love this sector so much. It's why we just want to stay right here and never leave it, because it's just too much. There's just too much goodness floating around, and if both of us can achieve a mission of making sure that everybody knows that this is where they should go when they need it, and even if they don't need it, when they just want to put their money somewhere safe, warm, and ethical, then we've done our jobs well, right?
Sounds good with me, buddy. Sounds good.
Ian, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. We spent time together virtually now, and I've learned new things yet again about you, and that endears me even more to you, and makes me glad that you're a friend and compadre in this mission. So thank you so much for giving up your time to come and join us on podcast number 1.
Absolutely.
And let's do it again in the second series.
All success for the future, Andrew. All success.
Thank you. And to you too. Thanks very much. And thank you, everybody, for listening.